Here we go.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? I just got out the shower, so yes, I understand. Nick, your hair looks fucking crazy. I know. I know. Yeah, this looks fucking stupid too, so we'll just go no hat. No hat. What's up, everybody? I appreciate you guys. How are you guys doing today? Happy Sunday. Hope you guys are enjoying the early game today. What's good? What's good? Golden or Myers? If Evans can't play, I would go Golden. What's up, Swak? How you doing? Golden Born or Wandale? Wandale for me. Mason or Dobbins? I got Dobbins. Thank you, Mantis. I appreciate you. Started Kyron. He's averaging like 7 yards a carry, but getting no usage. Yeah. Really weird game that they're up by this much, and Kyron isn't getting more carries. We'll see what happens, I guess, in the second half. Very strange, though. But again, this is kind of what I talk about all the time, and I'm not saying you're stupid for starting Kyron. I would have played Kyron as well. It's these London games, these games that are not in the United States are always super duper weird. So just par for the territory. What's up? What's up, man? How you doing? Who is the odd man out here? Pickens, Dowdle, Barkley, Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason. So they're saying that Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard are going to split carries. They're going to be rotating drives. Sounds kind of scary to me. I'm still playing Rico in a lot of my leagues, but I'm not going to sit here today and pretend like Rico is as safe as he's been over the last 2 weeks. And I also am not going to sit here and pretend that Rico is like this locked and loaded must start guy. Like, I think he could have a big game. If Rico Dowdle goes out there today and plays like absolute trash, I wouldn't be surprised either. Frankly, I would not. What's up, Skilly? How you doing, man? McCaffrey or Boutte is my wide receiver 3. I have to move Luke McCaffrey up my rankings. Also, I just have to move up all the Commanders guys up my rankings. I didn't update this morning and then didn't want to update it again right after because I know a lot of people probably just check the rankings on Patreon 20 minutes before kickoff. Right? I don't think people are checking a million times to see if I change things, but I did move a couple things around earlier and I'll keep moving them around. I would definitely play McCaffrey over Boutte. I got to move McCaffrey up. He is down as my wide receiver 63, which is just obviously way too low, right? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. That does not make no sense. I'm going to have to move him up. I don't love Luke McCaffrey. I'll be honest. Like, I'm not 100% sold on Luke McCaffrey being like this fucking absolute Hulk smash play that you have to start in your league. But I do think one of him, Jalen Lane, or Chris Moore will end up having a pretty decent game. So I'm gonna just give them all a solid bump. I don't love any of them though. Like, I'm just gonna be honest, I'm not 100% sold on any of those guys, but I will move them up because I think that's the right thing to do. Bill, White, or Rico? What's up, Kelly? How you doing? Bill, White, or Rico? I would go Rashad White. Or man, that's close. I'm gonna answer the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I would go Rashad White. That's close between him and Bill. Thank you for the super chat, Persian Assassin. I appreciate it. The fuck? Why can't I read? Persian Assassin. Persian Assassin. Thank you so much for the super chat. I love you long time. Harrison Jr. or AJ Brown, full PPR. I'm gonna play Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm gonna be honest with you. I simply am at the point of the season where I do not trust AJ Brown. I said it a lot throughout the summer that I don't trust him. I'm sitting here right now and I still don't trust him. Do I think AJ Brown could go absolutely balls to the wall in this game? 100%. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys and be like, oh, yeah, AJ Brown guaranteed to be terrible, right? But the Vikings matchup is brutal. It is one of the worst matchup for wide receivers that you can get. So while Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming off the injury, and while I don't believe Kyler Murray is playing from what I have read, Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray's out. Kyler Murray is expected to return to play. See, they said that he's expected to play, and then they said he's not expected to play. What is the real news here? Kyler Murray, Roto World. Yesterday, dude, whoever does the reporting was just on one. They were like, oh, he's out. He's in. Yeah, the Cardinals are to start Jacoby Brissett. So for me, I would go Marvin Harrison Jr. I just think Marvin Harrison Jr. feels a lot safer to me compared to um, Marvin Harrison Jr. He just feels so much safer to me compared to AJ Brown. I'm gonna rank him 2 spots ahead of AJ Brown. I think both of those guys are fine plays. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that they're both awful. If you start both of them, you're just a complete and utter idiot. But AJ Brown has such a tough matchup where I really just can't quantify starting him over Marv. So I would go with Marv personally in full PPR. BF, thank you for the super chat. Risk Egbuka/Tez Johnson or start Devontae Smith instead. Now, in my opinion, I would be shocked if Egbuka played. I know they have him listed as like a game time decision. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how he could possibly play a week after that injury. Again, I'm not a doctor, so you could take it with a grain of salt, but I would be very, 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 very shocked if he did play. Again, says, despite both wide receivers being listed as questionable for Monday night, Mike Evans is likely to play, and Emeka Egbuka has a real chance to play despite suffering a low-grade hamstring injury. Look, if you have the cojones to risk it, go ahead. Like, the way that I think about this is Devontae Smith should be able to get you. Look, I get Devontae Smith has bad games. He should be able to get you like 9 to 10 points at minimum. So if you are fine risking it, right? And you want to take the risk because if Egbuka plays, I mean, Egbuka could score 25 plus fantasy points, and go right ahead and do that. For me, I think it is a very, very large risk. It's a tough matchup, though, for Devontae Smith. Oh, man. Oh, man. This is a tough question. This is a really tough question. I think based on the most recent report that there's a real chance that he could play. Oh, man. Oh, man. If there is like a legitimate chance that he is going to play, oh man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I honestly still kind of lean with the fact that I don't think he's gonna play. So I would go with Devontae Smith. Maybe that's crazy, but I really don't think that he would play. So I would go to Devontae Smith. Keith, thank you for the super chat. Ertz or Kittle, full PPR. Thank you for the super chat. Ertz played really, really well last time out. Ertz is very good with the connection with Jaden Daniels. He's been very good this season, been able to find the end zone. But I will be honest with you, you did not draft Kittle in round 4, round 5, round 3, wherever you ended up getting him. His ADP was all over the place. I mean, obviously his ADP is just in one spot, right, when you're drafting him. But I was seeing leagues where Kittle was going in round 3. I was seeing leagues where Kittle was going in round 5. It was all over the place. You're not sitting George Kittle. Like, when George Kittle is healthy, you are going to play him. You kind of just live and die by the sword of George Kittle, because especially in an offense without Ricky Pearsall and with a banged up version of Juwan Jennings, like, I could easily see Kittle scoring 20 plus fantasy points, 25 plus fantasy points. Again, am I saying that that's a lock? No. I could certainly see it happening. And again, he's going to be super involved. So I don't think you can sit Kittle. Steven, thank you for the super chat. T-Mac or Diggs this week, Otten or Mason Taylor? Great question. Now, for the tight end question, I'm just going to give it to you straight. Things are now much more complicated due to the fact that Mike Evans is probably going to play and that Emeka Egbuka could play. That really, 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 really kind of throws a wrench into things. So I'm going to move Taylor above Cade Otton. Mason Taylor realistically should see 10 plus targets. Will it work? I can't guarantee you that. I cannot guarantee you that it will work, but I'm moving Mason Taylor above Cade Otton. So I would go with Mason Taylor. I'm chasing the upside, and I think Mason Taylor has 20 plus point upside in this game, even if he doesn't score, just due to how involved he is inside of this offense. So I do expect a pretty big game out of Mason Taylor. I get it's risky, but I like him. I would go ahead and play Mason Taylor. And then T-Mac or Stephon Diggs. That's a good question as well. I still believe in Stephon Diggs. I know he really screwed the pooch last week. I know that everyone really bought back into him, and then Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas ended up having the big game. And if you had Diggs, you were just kind of left very disappointed, to say the very least. But I do expect bigger days ahead for Diggs, but at the same time, T-Mac exploded last week. I don't really think the Jets defense is really all that good. One of the more overrated units in the National Football League. I think there's a good matchup for T-Mac. And I expect T-Mac to get his usual 8+ targets, have a good game. So I'd go T-Mac and I'd go Mason Taylor in full PPR. Lester, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you. PPR Flex 2, Keenan Allen, MHJ, Vidal, and Shaheed. Great question. Now, the reason why this is such a good question, I would not include Shaheed personally. I think Shaheed is one of those high upside players. He could typically get you like 8 to 10 points, but if something goes his way, I could easily see a guy like Shaheed popping off and scoring 20+ fantasy points, because if Rattler's able to hit him deep when he does get open due to the burst and the speed that he has, I think Shaheed could always have a good game, but Shaheed is just way too low down the totem pole. Like Olave could see 15 targets this week. I could see Kamara getting 6 and then like Shaheed getting 3, right? So to me, he's like such a big question mark to where it wouldn't even be worth even really considering him, in my opinion. Kamani Vidal looked so good last week up against the Dolphins, but I do want you guys to temper your expectations this week on him, because when you run really well up against the Dolphins, to me, it's not really a great indicator that, hey, Kamani Vidal is the next greatest running back for the LA Chargers organization, that Kamani Vidal is going to be like this must-start running back going forward, and more of a, knock on the Dolphins defense as a whole, just being very bad. So I think, Quentin Johnston is expected to play. We don't know for sure yet, but that's what it seems like. I think the smart move would be to go Vidal and to go Marvin Harrison Jr. and kind of just avoid the wide receiver situation for the Chargers in this scenario, because Vidal should be the RB1. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the wide receiver 1. Keenan Allen could be the wide receiver 1 on the team, getting 12+ targets. I could see Keenan Allen getting 6 targets and not really having playing that much of a role. So personally, I would go Marv and Vidal. Thank you for the super chat, Juan. I appreciate you as well. I have Tua. Should I waiver wire Wentz, Brissett, Penix, Rattler, Gabriel Jones, Geno Smith, or Ward, and start Chubb or Bam? Great question. Now, I have not seen what the weather looks like yet in Miami. I'm going to pull up our Twitter account because or not in Miami, the game's in Cleveland. I want to know exactly what the weather looks like before I say anything. It is expected to be very windy. As I'm watching the video right now, it doesn't look that crazy. Game time, kickoff 1 p.m. Wind and heavy rain come through just in time. NFL weather. Like, I really think that it's super risky to play Tua this week. Even because, let's be honest, if we start getting 50-mile-an-hour gusts of wind, that's going to heavily impact things. It says southwest winds 10 to 24 miles per hour with gusts as high as 47 miles per hour. Chance of precipitation, can't read, is at 100%. New rainfall amounts between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch possible. So kind of seems like something where you just kind of want to avoid Tua, right? It kind of just feels like the smart move is not to play him. So what I would do is probably go, it'd be between Wentz and Penix for me out of those guys. I'm not playing Cam Ward. I assume Jones is Mac Jones, not Daniel Jones. So I guess it would be Mac Jones. Yeah, Mac Jones would be my answer. Mac Jones is a tough spot up against the Falcons, but Mac Jones getting Kittle back, they have enough weapons, and he could just dump the ball off to McCaffrey 8,000 times, and he could score a touchdown. And we also did just see that McLaurin. We did. I don't know why the fuck I just said McLaurin. We should see. What the hell was I talking about? Sometimes I'm talking and I'm reading other shit, and I just completely blank on what I was saying. So I do apologize. Yeah, we should see Mac Jones. I remember what I was talking about. We should see Mac Jones be able to throw for the 300+ yards. He played really good last week. He just wasn't able to find the end zone. So I expect Mac Jones to bounce back. So I would go Mac Jones, and then Chubb or Bam. I'm just going to go Bam. We're just going to assume he's the RB1. No Amari DiMarcado means he should be able to get a decent amount of touches. And if they're able to score touchdowns like we ended up seeing a few weeks ago. I think that he will be very, like we saw last week, I think he'll be very involved in the red zone attack. So I would definitely prefer Bam, and I would lean with Mac Jones, assuming that's Mac Jones, which I think it is. If it's Daniel Jones, you also would just go Daniel Jones. What's up, Marvin? How you doing, my man? I really appreciate you for the super chat. Standard, Vidal or Addison, Browns or Seattle D? Great question. I love the Seattle defense this season. I really like what I've seen out of Seattle, and I don't really trust the Houston Texans to keep up the flame that they're running with prior to the bye. I think a lot of the reason why you saw the Houston Texans have that explosion offensively was because the matchup up that they were going up against wasn't necessarily the best. So a defense like Seattle, who's been able to force turnovers, who's been able to get pressure on the quarterback, especially with an offensive line that's as bad as the Houston Texans. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I have Seattle as my 7th ranked defense, Cleveland as my 8th ranked defense. So it's not like by a wide margin, right? It's like you have to go Seattle. If someone in the chat was like, "Oh, I'd actually rather play the Browns over Seattle," I'm not gonna sit here type back and forth a million times to you and say like you're wrong. So I would go Seattle. The rain thing could play a factor into things that could help the Browns, but also if the Dolphins really do commit to the run, the Browns could get gashed pretty heavily just by A-Chain. So I would go Seattle and Vidal or Addison in a standard league. In standard, I typically always kind of lean closer to the running back if I think they're similar-ish starts, right? In full PPR, I think you could definitely make a good argument for Addison. Same thing within half PPR. But if I don't really expect the Vikings to put up like a crazy amount, like I don't expect Addison to score this week, and I could see Vidal scoring. In the standard league, the running back is typically like the tie goes to the running back, tie goes to the runner. I would go Vidal. So Vidal and Seattle. Ray Garcia, good morning, Notorious. Good morning to you as well. Good morning to everyone in chat. I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. I appreciate you guys a ton. And a trade just got accepted in my one league, and I have to push it through. So let me do that. And then I'll answer this question. Approve. All right. Good morning, Notorious. Good morning to you as well. Who to start? Stevenson or Kenneth Walker? As my flex, who do you start? Jalen Coker, Johnston, Spears, Henderson. Let's go Patriots. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, you got to go Quentin Johnston. I can't make a good argument to sit him. I understand that his last game that he played so far this year, like his most recent game, was not the best. I understand that was his worst game of the year. But when you have a guy that has scored as many points as Quentin Johnston this year, weeks 1 through 4, he was a top 23 wide receiver every single week. He has scored a grand total of 4 touchdowns through 5 games. And we saw him have a 2-touchdown game back in week number 1 in a matchup up against the Colts that could end up being high scoring. Again, I say could end up being high scoring because when we talk about some games, I don't think they really have that ability. Like the Dolphins versus the Browns, I would be genuinely perplexed if 50 points were scored in that game, right? If you said that the Colts versus the Chargers ended with one team scoring 30 plus points and the other team scoring 27, 28, like I'm not very surprised by that outcome. So I would go with Quentin Johnston. I think, again, I get his last game up against Washington wasn't the best, but he did get hurt in that game. So I would definitely go Quentin Johnston. If you wanted me to rank them, it would be QJ, Coker, strictly for the upside, Henderson, and then Spears. The reason why I'm not big on Jalen Coker this week is pretty simple, in my opinion. Jalen Coker definitely has a lot of skill, and I think he will become the wide receiver 2 unanimously on this team. But I think it's going to take some time. And I don't think necessarily his first game out with the team, you want to roll the dice on that. So it'd be Quentin Johnston. And then for your running back, I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker. Ramondre Stevenson, you're a Patriots fan. You know this just from watching the games. This is a guy that goes from on top of the world, looking actually pretty good, scoring multiple touchdowns, but being so bad that it is genuinely shocking that you're actually watching this on your television in an NFL game, right? He is very, 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 very up and down. So that's how we go. That is how we go. I would go Kenneth Walker just because I really just do not trust Ramondre Stevenson. All right. Yeah, I would go Kenneth Walker. I just don't trust Ramondre Stevenson. It's really just that simple. We've seen Ramondre have these big games and then he falls off. I think Ramondre will probably have, we're in week 7, probably 3 more, maybe even 4 more games where he does really good. But there's really just no, like, in my rankings of trust, I don't trust him at all. So I don't really love Kenneth Walker either. I just think Kenneth Walker, one of these days, one of those big runs is going to go into the end zone, right? One of those big runs he has will find the end zone. He will have a big game. So for me, Kenneth Walker and Quentin Johnson. Thank you so much for the super chat. Nito Trejo. Neto Trejo. Thank you very much, my man. I appreciate you for the super chat. Josh Jacobs is questionable. Seems likely to be too much risk. Now, we will read real quick about this. 1 second here. We will read. We'll do a little bit of reading about Josh Jacobs. I will read you guys the exact report. And that's what I'm trying to pull up here. Josh Jacobs, Roto World. Now, he's sick. He's not injured. So, a lot of the time, guys can play through sickness. But he's also kind of dealing with the calf. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports Josh Jacobs' calf/illness is a true game-time decision for Week 7. Jacobs was limited in practice on Wednesday and Thursday with the illness. He was then upgraded to a full practice on Friday, but the team added that the calf injury to his practice report listed him as questionable. Full participants almost always suit up on Sunday, but the calf injury is likely more serious than initially expected. Schefter notes that Emmanuel Wilson would draw the start if Jacobs is ruled out. Fantasy managers may want to add him as a consistency. Nick doesn't know to read, guys. Contingency option if Jacobs be ruled out later today. So, if you are in a scenario with Josh Jacobs and you can pick up Emmanuel Wilson, that might be a lot of your guys' best bet. If you have Jacobs, you just pick up his handcuff, and then you don't have to fucking worry about all this, right? You don't have to sit here panicking about this and that. But not a lot of you guys have players you're comfortable to drop, which I think is the scenario here. So for me, I would go with Vidal for the safety. You are getting the safety net of Kamani Vidal. And here, wait, what time does Vidal play? Okay, this will be way easier. When does Josh Jacobs, the Packers play at 4, right? The Packers play at 4. So this is going to be real easy for you. You're going to put yourself in position to make the swap. You go with Rico. They're playing at 1, I assume, because it's against the Jets. Jets. Sorry that I don't have all this shit memorized. I talk about it all week. What time the games are at, and I just blank. Yeah, so that game's at 1. So you're going to play Rico, and you're going to play Vidal, right? You're going to put those guys in your lineup. So in case you just forget, in case, you take a nap during the games, I've fallen asleep during the games too sometimes. The witching hour ain't that exciting. You take a quick nap. But what you're going to do is you're going to play Rico at 1. You're going to get the points from Rico. I think Rico is pretty risky this week, but I would say the exact same thing about Chuba. I would say the exact same thing about Alvin Kamara. And Rico's upside to me is very high. So Rico and Vidal. So if you have Vidal, and so if Jacobs doesn't play, you just get Vidal. And if Jacobs does play and you fucking forget about it, which is fine, you have Vidal in. If Jacobs does play, you take Vidal out and put Jacobs in. It just makes it so much easier. We got a fine matchup up against the Colts for Vidal, and what might be a very high-scoring game. He feels like the clear bell cow. Rico and Chuba are going to rotate drives. I still lean with Rico. He's the hot hand. He's been playing well. Chuba coming off injury might start off on the wrong foot. So I trust Rico, and I trust Vidal. But again, make sure you write this down. Write it down somewhere. Set an alarm on your phone. Be like, check Roto World at 4 o'clock. Check Twitter at 4 o'clock. Check whatever at 4 o'clock. And figure out if Josh Jacobs is in or not. Typically, around an hour before game time. So that game kicks off at 4:05. You'll know at 3:05 Eastern Standard Time if he's going to play or not. And then you could just go back to Jacobs because, look, if Jacobs plays, you're not sitting Jacobs in that kind of a matchup. So for me, it's going to be you put Rico in your lap, you put Vidal in there. And if Josh Jacobs plays, you just switch Vidal out for Josh Jacobs. Juan Thank you so much for the super chat. Defense: Dolphins, Panthers, Jets, Giants, Saints, Titans. All right. All right. Okay. I'm checking my rankings right now just so I could give you a definitive answer. So the Dolphins game is looking like it's really going to end up being pretty rainy with the gusts. So I do like the Dolphins defense. In real life, I don't think the Dolphins defense are very good. Like, I want you guys to understand this. I think the Dolphins defense is actually very bad. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. Nut low, terrible. But in a game like this, they might be able to get a couple sacks. Maybe some wet handoffs don't go the way. Judkins is a rookie. Maybe he fumbles. Those are the kind of things we're thinking about. So I would lean with the Dolphins in your scenario. I don't really want to play the Titans. I don't really want to play the Saints. It would really just be between the Panthers and between the Dolphins. And I have the Panthers 13, Dolphins 9, strictly just because of the weather. So I lean with the Dolphins. But it's a pretty big toss-up. I go Miami, personally. That's my opinion. Dolphins, baby. And this is not like some biased take, like, oh, Nick's a Dolphins fan, so he thinks the Dolphins defense is good. Of course, I don't think that. Like, anyone with two eyes can tell you that the Dolphins defense is terrible. But again, it's all about the matchups. It's all about the matchups. Riaz, thank you so much for the super chat, my man. I appreciate you. Need one in non-PPR. Luke McCaffrey, Golden or Bourne. Love the show, and Embiid is back. Yes, sir. I'm a Nets fan. I do like Embiid. I never really hated the 76ers. I know some Nets fans do. I like basketball more than I actually like the Nets themselves. Like, if the Nets are bad, it doesn't really, like, it's not one of those year ruining things where it's like when the Dolphins stink or like the Devils stink, the Mets stink. That actually hurts my feelings. But the Nets, I don't really care that much about because their team just isn't that good. So non PPR, you're just looking for a touchdown, right? That's how I view these things. You are literally just looking for a touchdown. Bourne had a huge game last week. I don't buy into Bourne having that good of a game again. I just don't. We were swindled into it early on in the season. Bourne comes. Oh no, that's not Bourne. Fuck. I thought that said Booty, and I got them mixed up. I would go Bourne. I think Bourne should be the number one or number two option on this team, depending how much they utilize Kittle. So for me, I think the smart move would be to play Bourne. I think Bourne is live to get 10 plus targets. I think Bourne is live to finally get his, pop the cherry of scoring that touchdown this season. I feel good about Bourne. Luke McCaffrey, I think, has very big upside, but the problem with Luke McCaffrey is last week he only got like a target or two. Very likely he just sees a target or two again, potentially. So that's scary. I'd rather just go with Kendrick Bourne, who I think legitimately is the number one receiver on this team because Juwan Jennings is so hurt. So I would go with Kendrick Bourne. NVM, NWM712. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hurts or Herbert for quarterback, and Barkley, Judkins, Dowdle, and White, 2 running backs, and a flex. Great question. Hurts versus Herbert is tough because watching the games, the Eagles' offense just really doesn't look that good. They look pretty bad. So, former Eagles defensive end Brandon Graham is now expected to potentially come out of retirement and sign with the Eagles. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Hurts versus Herbert. Hurts hasn't looked the best. I still believe, though, that Hurts is probably a way safer option just because of his upside to, rush in multiple touchdowns. I mean, at any point in the game, they could just push his ass 4 straight times and he could just end up in the end zone, which, yes, it's very annoying and it is very frustrating to watch, especially when they don't call the false starts on other teams. But they do call false starts on other teams and not the Eagles. But Hurts just seems way too safe for me to go against him. So I would go with Hurts. Barkley, Judkins, Dowdle, or Rashad White, 2 on a flex. You can't sit Saquon Barkley. I get Saquon Barkley absolutely screwed the pooch up against the Giants last week. His revenge game didn't go well. But as a whole, You're not sitting your first round pick that's been as successful as Saquon Barkley dating back to last year, has been fine this year. Again, I get that based on where you drafted him, you're probably disappointed with the output of Saquon Barkley. And I'm not going to sit here and, try to, what's that called? Where it's like gaslight you. Yeah, gaslight you into thinking Saquon Barkley has been fantastic this year. But yeah, I definitely am playing Saquon Barkley. I am definitely playing Judkins because up against the Dolphins defense, I mean, they can't stop a nosebleed. They can't stop anything. I'm going with Barkley. I'm going with Judkins because, again, the matchup is so good. And then I would go with Rachaad White. The only reason why I'm not going with Dowdle is because Rachaad White is so clearly the RB1 on his team. Whereas if they're going to be switching off drive after drive with Chuba and Rico Dowdle doing like the baton handoff, to me, that is way too many question marks when you just have a guy that's as safe as Rachaad White. Now, if you're in another scenario, right, where you don't have to play Judkins, you don't have to play where you don't have to play, not Judkins. You don't have to play Dowdle. It's probably safer, right? In a scenario where you have Rachaad White, you have Judkins, you have Barkley. So I'm going with the Eagles double stack of Hurts and Barkley. Then we're going with Judkins and White and just avoiding Dowdle. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you. Good username 79. That is a good username. I have Stevenson at 1 p.m. Allen and Wilson. I can pick up Vidal. Do I play Stevenson or see if Jacobs plays? If not, play Wilson, Allen, or pick up Vidal and play him? I think the smart move here would be if Jacobs is not a part of your team, to just not even worry about it, right? Do I think that Emmanuel Wilson can play fine in relief of Josh Jacobs? Of course, right? The Packers are a very good situation for a guy to succeed, and Jacoby Myers is inactive, which tells you that his ass is getting traded instantly. Jacoby Myers, that's crazy. So I would go ahead and play Stevenson. Shit, I just completely. The problem is I was reading what my friend just texted me. Shout out to you, David. And I can't be doing multiple things at once, guys. I have too much of a smooth brain to do this. So we're going Vidal. The reason why is I think Josh Jacobs, his backup, Emmanuel Wilson, I don't think this is like a top tier backup scenario, right? We talk about how Bijan was to go down. Knock on wood a million times. Tyler Algier would be very good. We talk about how there are certain backups in fantasy football that are very, very, very good. I don't think that Emmanuel Wilson would be in the consideration of this elite handcuff. So why not just play Vidal, who has a good enough of a matchup up against the Colts, who is clearly the RB1 on his team, and then you don't have to play this guessing game. Stevenson has fumbleitis. He's going to keep being the RB1. His floor is very low. It's like 4 fantasy points. Vidal, in my opinion, is getting you at least 8. So I'm going with Vidal, and I'm not even dealing with the situation of Josh Jacobs. Now, it's different if you have Josh Jacobs, right? It's much, much different. But in your scenario, we can just instantly pick up Vidal. I'm just picking up Vidal. I'm not worried about all this. So pick up Vidal, sit Stevenson. Jizzy Ya says, what's up, my guy? What's going on, man? Full PPR, tight end premium. Flex 1, Mason Taylor, Travion Henderson, Woody Marks, Luke McCaffrey. Also got Lamar out. Should I go CJ Stroud or Mac Jones? Great question. Great question. CJ Stroud versus Mac Jones. I personally lean with CJ Stroud. I don't feel 100% confident in saying that, where they are very close in my rankings. So if you personally didn't want to take my advice and go Mac Jones, I'd be fine with that. He's been a top 15 quarterback in back-to-back games, looked incredible up against the Ravens, looked much better up against the Titans. I don't love this matchup up against Seattle, but if CJ Stroud can continue to play how he did the last 2 weeks, he should be able to be a top 16-ish guy to kind of, have you feeling fine with Lamar out. Mac Jones has been solid, but this is the worst matchup for a quarterback on a weekly basis. I think I'm going to move Mac Jones up. I think gun to the head, if I had to make the decision, I think I would play Mac Jones just because I trust him more, and that's the way I'm going to lean. I'm going to lean with Mac Jones slightly, just because I trust him more than I trust CJ Stroud. And then Mason Taylor, Travion Henderson, Woody Marks, or Luke McCaffrey. If you're looking for the safest option possible, I think Mason Taylor's probably your safest bet just because of the amount of volume he's going to get. I don't think he finds the end zone. Luke McCaffrey, I think, could be very volatile. Could see 2 targets, could see 7 targets and score a touchdown. It's my team. I'm going for Luke McCaffrey. So I'm going to go Luke McCaffrey. Oh, it is tight end premium, though. So we're going Mason Taylor. That completely changes it. Mason Taylor, his 10 plus targets, if he could get 5 plus receptions, tight end premium, just way safer and could definitely edge out Luke. So I would go with Mason Taylor and I would go with Mac Jones. Waller or Mason Taylor. Thank you, Nesto. I appreciate you. I would personally go with Waller. Now, the reason why, no problem, man, would be I think that Waller is going to get the safe targets, right? Even though Tua's going to throw the ball, and it's going to be like one of those scenarios where if you've ever played golf and you hit the ball and it's like a complete slice, the ball just goes in the complete opposite direction that you thought you hit it in, and then it starts hooking like crazy. I think you're going to see a couple of balls thrown from Tua, a couple of balls thrown from Dylan Gabriel, where the ball just gets sent like in the complete opposite direction of where it's being thrown and is like picked off or just, no, or just completely out of bounds. I think you will see that, but I still think with the crazy winds, most of the game, the wind isn't going to be that bad where he could just hit Waller a bunch of times over the middle. And I think if they utilize Waller how they did in the second game out, not last week, the second game, not the first game, the second game, trying to think of who that was against. The Panthers, right? Yeah, if they use him like that, I think he should be safe. I think Taylor might be safer. So if you're just strictly thinking about safety, I would go Mason Taylor. But I still think I lean Waller. I still think Waller's going to have a good game, honestly. Or good enough. And plus, if they get into the red zone, they can still throw if they're on like the 2-3 yard line. It's more of like, Waddle. If they're not getting Waddle open over the middle, giving him the easy stuff, Waddle might really struggle if they're just trying to throw bombs over Baghdad with Tua. That's not going to work in this kind of game. So I'm still fine going Waller. Vaporous Plenty, thank you for the super chat. Should I flex Bourne or Golden or McCaffrey? I'm going with Bourne. I really think even with George Kittle back, and George Kittle could take the throne as the number 1 target up against the Falcons. I think that's possible. I'm not going to say that's impossible. Shout out to Kim Possible. But I would just go with Bourne. I think Jawan Jennings, the fact that the guy has, 5 broken ribs and other injuries as well. How are you playing with 5 broken ribs? That's crazy, isn't it? 5 broken ribs. And we saw, sure, he played a lot of snaps. He only had a few targets last week. I think we see something similar. And I think you see a whole lot of Bourne, whole lot of red. Shout out Playboy Cardi. So we're going to go with Kendrick Bourne. Yo, Nick, we're devastated at running back. Ryan, I feel you on that. Hubbard, Bill, Charbonnet, or Carter need 2, please. Thank you for the help. Thank you. You're the best. No, thank you. You are the best. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the stream. I'm going to adjust my mic real quick and just put it as close to me as possible because on these streams, we're not yelling. The mic doesn't have to be far away. I'm not going to scream anything. Hopefully. The Jaguars are they're getting taken to the cleaners right now. To the cleaners. So who would I start? Good question. And sorry that my nose sounds clogged. I'm not sick, guys. I'm okay. It's just when I'm speaking for a while, my nose gets all messed up. Okay. Bill, Hubbard, Charbonnet, Carter. I'm going Bill. Bill was so bad last week, but he got so many touches, and Bill fumbled. I thought Bill was going to have a really good game. Honestly, I thought that was kind of set up for the big Bill game, the Bill coming out party, right? He has the good game the week prior. You get the good matchup. It's like, okay, this is where Bill comes to play. This is where Bill Nye, the science guy, comes out and has the good game, and he doesn't. But fast forward now to this week, really good matchup up against the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys just cannot stop the run. You have to play Bill. And then I would probably just play Hubbard and send a prayer up to the football gods that Hubbard finds the end zone. Because with Charbonnet, with Carter, like you're dealing with such, all these guys are in confusing situations besides Bill. Bill, he's the lead back. I'm just going to go with Hubbard and hope that he sees enough work to be valuable. And on one of his drives that they're going to give him, if they're really going to rotate drive in, drive out, he could definitely score and get enough dump off. So hopefully, Brian Thomas Jr. is okay, who just got absolutely whacked out in the game. I lean Bill and I lean Hubbard. That's how I would go with it. Thank you again. Miguel, thank you for the super chat. Rico, Vidal, Genti, or Jordan Mason sit one full PPR. The way that I will answer this question is very, very, very simple. I think I'm going to put Kamani Vidal over Rico just because I just trust him a little bit more. If you want to go with Rico over Vidal, I think that's fine. Oh man, I think Jordan Mason's going to be the odd man out. If you want to be as safe as possible, I think you just avoid Rico. If I'm being honest with you, I think Rico is by far the most risky asset. The Eagles' defense hasn't been what I thought they would be, but I do worry. Like the Vikings' offense as a whole, like with Carson Wentz, it's just like a big concern in my mind. Same thing with JJ McCarthy. I think they should try to rely on the run heavily in this game, but I don't know if they'll be able to, especially since the Eagles just lost back-to-back games. I think the Eagles are going to come out angry, and I think the Eagles are going to put up a lot of points in this game, and I think they're going to have to, phase away from the rushing attack that I think is the game plan going into this one. So if it was my team, I would sit Jordan Mason because I am just inherently play the game very risky. I am fine taking the risk on a guy like Rico Dowdle, who could definitely just be a complete and utter bust, over a guy like Jordan Mason, who is just significantly safer. Jordan Mason is way safer than Rico. But if you want to be safe, you just sit Rico Dowdle. But if it's my team, I'm going Rico, I'm going Vidal, and I'm going Genti. Ski Socks, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Waller with some bad weather, or Otten with Evans and possibly Egbuka coming back. Also, pick 2, Nico, Pittman, Bourne. Thanks, no problem. All right, second question. You cannot sit Nico Collins and you cannot sit Pittman. I love Kendrick Bourne. I think Kendrick Bourne's going to have a good game. So it does hurt me deep in my soul to tell you that you have to sit him. But Michael Pittman this year has been very boomer bust. I get it. But the booms have been loud. The booms have been coming in bunches. He has had just 2 down games. The rest of the other 4 games have been very good. Daniel Jones has looked very good. I'm excited about the matchup that they have this week up against the Chargers. So personally, if it's my team, I'm going to be sitting Kendrick Bourne. And this isn't even a Kendrick Bourne hate hour. I like Kendrick Bourne a lot, but we're going to go Pittman and we're going to go Nico. You just can't sit Nico. I don't think you can make a good argument to sit him. So Nico and Pittman are in. And then I would go with Waller with the bad weather. If Egbuka and Evans play, I mean, Otten is just completely dead in the water, sleeping with the fishes. If just Evans plays, which I think is more likely, Otten is fine. I'm just going to roll the dice on Waller. And again, just hope Tua hits him a bunch over the middle. A lot of easy stuff this week. I think for a lot of you guys, if you have Waller and another option that I really trust, like for instance, if Evans and Egbuka were both out, like I think Evans will play, I don't think Egbuka will, then I'm 100% just playing Otten, right? It's just so much easier. It feels so much safer. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and lean with Evans. I mean, I'm going to lean with the fact that I think Evans is going to play. So I'm going to go with the bad weather. Go Waller, and then we're sitting Bourne. Thank you for the super chat. Arav, my man, thank you for the super chat. Wandale or Pittman Jr., pick one. QJ, Fannin, Devontae Smith. I wish that the weather wasn't so bad potentially in this Dolphins game, because I would be talking so heavily about Fannin. We would be banging the drum relentlessly for Fannin. We would be going absolutely ballistic for Fannin. But we can't do that because of the weather. So I'm going Quentin Johnston. Again, I get QJ didn't play as good as last game, but the prior 3 games to that, top 23 receiver in all games. Good matchup again up against the Colts, one that I could see being very high scoring. So I'm going QJ. Don't really want to play the Devontae Smith game up against the Vikings. And Fannin, weather concerns, it's just easier to play QJ. And then Wandale or Pittman, I'm going Pittman. I like what I've seen out of Wandale. I'm interested to see Jacoby Myers isn't playing today. Like, does that mean he's basically guaranteed to probably get traded? Probably. Right? Because why else would you do that? Right? Why else would you put him in that scenario of putting him inactive when he's healthy if he's not going to get traded? So that's very interesting. How that will affect Wandale. We'll see if he ends up getting traded there. But I'm going Pittman again. Pittman's highs have been so high. And again, I really like that game environment. So you get both sides of the ball with QJ and Pittman. That's what I would do. The S box, thank you. Would you trade Bonix and Genty for Barkley and either Herbert or Darnold? And my quarterback two is Fields. My other running backs are Kamara, Scatterboo, and Rashad White. That is one of those trades where, to me, it feels very, 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 very close. Almost like if you do the trade, it's fine. You don't do the trade, it's also fine, right? It's kind of one of those where I don't feel like either party is winning. Now, sure, you fast forward 3 weeks from now, if Saquon really puts things together, you would have wished you had Saquon. If Genty keeps playing as well as he's been, maybe you wanted to have Genty, right? It's like a super duper close trade. In my opinion, I would rather have Barkley and Herbert because I trust Barkley and Herbert more than I trust Nix and Genty. But I don't think this is one of those where it's like, oh, you went in there and you stole his lunch money, right? You robbed him blind. It was like fast five. You took the safe. You're driving it on the highway, right? I don't think that's what you're getting here. This isn't a bank heist. This is just a very even trade where I think you barely get the edge, right? Now, if it's Darnold and Barkley, that dampens things for me because I like Herbert better than Darnold. I think I would still do it if I was getting Darnold and Barkley, but it is much closer. It's still just a close trade. I mean, Nix hasn't lived up to expectations this year. He has been fine enough to where if you drafted him, you don't feel like, you made the worst decision ever and you can't sleep at night because like, oh, why did I take Nix when I could have taken this, right? You're probably just thinking, okay, I took Nix, he's okay. That's what I feel like. He's on my super flex team. He's okay, right? I'm not over the moon about it, right? So I think I'd rather have Barkley. UC Barkley. I'd rather have Barkley and Herbert, Justin Herbert. So that's how I'd lead. Barkley and Herbert. Drop Boutte for Emmanuel Wilson or just start K9. I would do that. When do the Seahawks play? Oh, the Seahawks play tomorrow. So yeah, that's a perfect plan. Perfect plan. Then, because you're never going to play Boutte. I'm sorry to tell you guys, like, Boutte is a fine hold. Like, he's fine to sit on your bench because if something was to happen to Diggs, then I think he would become the wide receiver one on the team. But this is kind of one of those offenses to me that feels more like, the Packers, right? Where they don't have a clear number one, even though it is Diggs, right? They spread the ball around a ton. They use the Oprah Winfrey offense. You get the ball, you get the ball, you all get the ball. Check under your seat. You also got the ball. And that really hurts a guy like Boutte. So I would do that. And then all you got to do is if Emmanuel Wilson is in and Josh Jacobs is out, you put in Emmanuel Wilson. If not, you just roll the dice on Kenneth Walker and you hope he has that big run for the touchdown because you know it's coming, right? You know one of these games is going to happen. He is that good of a player. He's just severely handicapped by the team. Big booty week. Big booty week. Yeah, but I definitely would do that. So then you can just play Wilson over Kenneth Walker. Because again, I don't think Booty's the kind of guy that you're ever really going to feel good enough to play him. Sure, he's like a fine bye-week fill-in due to the upside that he has, but even when you bye-week fill him in to your fantasy team, he's not guaranteed to have a big game. So Emmanuel Wilson for me. Over Walker if Emmanuel Wilson plays. Again, I still think Josh Jacobs will play, but shake your Boutte facts. Half PPR, rank, Rice, Judkins, White, and Bannon or Waller. Thank you, GOAT. Thank you. Rice, Judkins, White. It would be Judkins, Rice, White for me. Or do we go White, Rice? Funny joke there. Haha, so funny, right, Nick? Right, guys? Talking to myself like some evil person. Yeah, for me, Judkins, Rice, and then White. I think White might be slightly safer on paper compared to Judkins. I mean, compared to White, like White. Jesus. White is a little bit safer than Rice because Rice is coming off of not being able to play for 6 weeks, practice with the team. He has not been on the gridiron for a while, right? He hasn't actually played in an NFL game in the regular season. That could lead into things, but I feel like they're just going to force feed him the ball up against the Raiders. So I think he's going to score probably. So I'd go Judkins, Rice, then White, and then Fannin or Waller. I'm going to go with Waller. I think Fannin, he had a really big game last week, but do we expect the Browns to throw the ball 52 times in this weather? No, I do not. I think they're going to try to run the ball with Judkins a ton. So I would trust Waller more. I just think Waller's going to be involved a little bit more. So, and he's more likely to score. So I'm going Judkins, Rice, White, Waller. No problem, man. I appreciate you. One more question. With Flowers on bye, I have Judy starting in his place. Do I roll with him or pivot to McCaffrey? I would. Again, bad weather for Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy himself has just been bad, really bad. And the fact that he is dropping the ball left and right also sounds brutal in a game where it's going to rain, where you know it's going to rain. So for that reason, I think the smart move is just to kind of stiff arm away from Jerry Jeudy if possible. I get Luke McCaffrey, very boomer bust. Again, I'm not going to lie and say Luke McCaffrey is the clear wide receiver 1 without Terry and Debo. I don't think that. It could easily be Jalen Stay in Yo Lane. I think it could easily be Chris Moore, but I would prefer to go McCaffrey. Thank you for the super chat. Rav, Rav, thank you again for the super chat. I appreciate you. Drop 1 for Kittle. Bam, Harvey, Sharb, Kendre Miller, Pollard. I think Kendre Miller would be the guy getting the drop. I think at this point, Kendre Miller 100% requires an injury for him to be start worthy. I know that we thought Alvin Kamara might get traded, but based on everything Alvin Kamara has said to the media, oh, I'm going to be drinking pina coladas if you try to trade me, which basically means he'll just quit. He'll just give up. Remember when Gronk was going to get traded to the Lions and he just retired? Maybe that's what Alvin Kamara is going to do, right? I don't think they're going to end up moving him, even though I think that is in the best scenario for the organization is to move him. I don't think they will. I think he wants to be there for life, and I get it. Weird to have such a strong affinity for an organization that is as bad as that one, but for right now, of course, while he's been there, but yeah, I'd get rid of Kendre Miller. Definitely need Kittle on your team. So Harvey's another guy that I would consider dropping, but I think Harvey could actually work in ahead of Dobbins, whereas I don't think you're ever going to get a scenario where Kendre leapfrogs Alvin Kamara. So I'm getting rid of Kendre. Christopher Gilmore, thank you for the super chat. Fannin versus Mason Taylor, Luke McCaffrey, or Devontae Smith? Great question. I don't like Luke McCaffrey enough to play him over Devontae Smith. I'm a big fan of Luke McCaffrey, like his grit, first guy in, last guy out type of mentality. But in reality, let's be honest, he's not guaranteed to get a crazy amount of targets. And while I'm fine pivoting to McCaffrey over Jeudy, who I just don't trust at all, even in a rough matchup, Devontae Smith still has a decent enough floor, right? Whereas Luke McCaffrey's floor, is 2 points, right? I think we could easily see him get 2 points here. Devontae Smith should get you at least 8, so I just feel way better about Devontae Smith. And then Fannin versus Taylor. If we're sitting in the perfect game environment, right, where it's not raining, there's not crazy wind, it's Fannin 100%. But that's not the world we live in, so I would go with Mason Taylor, safer game environment. And again, no Garrett Wilson. He's going to get fed. And my question is right now, are the Jaguars going to score a single point? What do you guys think in the chat? Do we think that the Jaguars will get a single point? This is dreadful. This is a dreadful showing. As I always say, when you send these games abroad, they end up being bad. This is a game that if it was in Jacksonville, in Duval, we'd be very excited. But this game's in London, and it's an absolute shit show. So, shocker, right, guys? Shocker. Yeah, Mason Taylor for me and Devontae Smith. Jared. He went to Jared. Thank you so much for the super chat. Is your picture a penguin? Or am I I'm so zoomed. It is a penguin. See, when I'm looking at your guys' screen, I'm looking at there's a bunch of things up on my screen. So that's why, your pictures aren't as zoomed in. Diggs versus Seattle or Vidal versus the Colts. Very easy answer. Very easy in my opinion. Do you want to score 25 plus fantasy points? You play Diggs, right? You play Diggs. If you want that upside, you play Diggs. If you want to get yourself 10 to 15 points, you play Vidal. After what I saw last week, I don't trust Diggs enough to play him over Vidal. I think they both have decent enough ceilings. I think Diggs' ceiling is a little bit higher, but I would go with Vidal. I just trust him way more. I love Diggs. I think Diggs is the wide receiver one on this team. I think last week shouldn't be over talked about, but at the same time, I just trust combining Vidal more, so I would lean with Vidal. That's how I see things. I think Diggs is going to have a good enough game to be fine, but I just don't trust him at this point when you have such a safer answer with Vidal. And yeah, I know Diggs doesn't play Seattle. I don't know. Diggs plays up against who are the Patriots playing? They're playing up against the Titans. Even so, doesn't matter. I just trust Vidal more. I should have picked up on that quicker, but I definitely trust Vidal more. Johnston or Evans Johnston? Thanks, Spock. Rolling with Waddle or Pacheco. No fear of the weather. Yeah, I fear the weather, but I'm not playing fucking Pacheco. Looking bad for the Jags, I agree. BTJ touchdown. I hope BTJ scores. He's in he's on my subscriber league team. Notorious Fantasy League 1, League 1 of a million that we have. Things are looking rough, bro. Things are looking rough. Fucking Chuckleberry is diddling me right now. He's doing me dirty. He's touching me in my no-no square. No bueno. No bueno right now. I hope Chuckleberry's watching so he heard that. He knows what he's doing to me. Evans, Worthy, or Dobbs? If Evans is out, I'd just play Worthy and not worry about it. Jet lag players with higher injury risk. What is the league thinking? The league loves it, though, Spock. How many weeks in a row are we in now? What week is this? This is like week 5 of these in a row? And the Dolphins have to go to play the Commanders in Spain? I hate it, man. I hate it. I can't stand these games. Mainly also because this should not be going on at 9:30 in the morning. It's so bad for the West Coast fans. It's so terrible. I feel bad for guys like Spock, right? You wake up at 6:30 a.m. to watch this? Are you serious? And I think the argument is perfect. Like the higher injury risk, jet lag is terrible. If this game was on, they start at 12 or 11, I probably like it more than if they start at 9:30 though. But still, yeah, I don't like the overseas games. Thoughts on Flacco rest of season? Yeah, he's worth a bench stash, I would say. I mean, I think last Thursday we kind of saw, you know, if you give Flacco 100 games this season, it's like basketball. There's a million games. I know there's not 100 games in basketball, but 100 games this season Flacco plays. That is probably one of the best 3, right? Flacco really plays however many games less than in the season. That was probably his best game or his second best game, right? The odds of him doing that again is low, but I do think he's worthy of a stash. Like, I don't think there's worse bench pieces than Flacco, especially if you're in a pickle. This game is rough, I agree. Rico or Swift? Rico for me. Horrible game. The GOAT is live, yes, sir. Yo, what up, Nick? What's up, man? Pittman or Dowdle? Pittman. Should I start Stroud this week with Josh Allen by? Fields also available. I would play Fields, but again, if you can't handle the potential 3 fantasy points that Fields might get you, you just play Stroud. You're going to take the shot on Evans, dude. See, I think if Evans comes back, I don't know. Evans to me just hasn't looked so good this year to the point where I feel like I have to play him. For some of you guys. For other of you guys, I get it. But in that scenario, I think I trust it was Worthy over Evans. I think I just trust him a little bit more. Can Tom Brady save the Dolphins, dude? Not even our Lord and Savior, I think, could save the Dolphins at this point. Complete disaster. Yup. Says Bourne or Boutte or both flex over Spears and Luke McCaffrey. Dude, I don't know if I want to play Spears. I don't know about all that. Tajay Spears fantasy data. I don't know about all that. Let's see. 9 points last week. but it was a little fugazi. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely gonna play Born over Butte. I think I'd play Booty over Spears, unless you just want to get 5 points to play Spears. Like Booty's either gonna score you 0 or like 10 plus. I think I'd just roll the dice on Booty. I don't trust Spears at all. Man, but they did just fire their coach, so maybe the offense actually figures it out. So you know what? I don't trust Booty at all either. So I'm gonna go Bourne. I'm gonna go Spears and Luke McCaffrey. That's tough though. That is tough. Thanks for the super chat, Christopher, as well. Thank you, Kiap. Luke McCaffrey versus Devontae Smith. We get kick return yards. You get kick return yards. It's interesting. That is interesting. Very interesting. If you get kick return yards, I'm probably gonna play Luke McCaffrey. Devontae Smith doesn't return the kicks, I don't think. Right? He doesn't return the kicks. Yeah. So I'd go Luke McCaffrey. I want to be honest with you. That is really the only way I would ever go with Luke McCaffrey over Devontae Smith is because there are kick return yards. So I'd go with Luke McCaffrey. I don't trust Luke McCaffrey. I don't really trust Devontae Smith either. But I think the return yards will give him a safer enough floor to be willing for me to roll the dice. So I would go Luke McCaffrey. Tito's ex-wife. What's up, my man? Good morning. Good morning to you as well. Half PPR, 6 point. Bo Nix or Drake May at the flex. Quentin Johnson, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift. Best of luck to you today. Salute to you as well. Man, DeAndre Swift looked so good last week. DeAndre Swift was looking mighty fine last week. I couldn't believe he looked that good. I have been someone that has been pretty down on Swift for years. I never really thought Swift was all that good. That was a good game though. Like I'll give him credit where credit's earned, right? I don't just lie and say like, oh, just because I didn't think this guy was going to be good. If he has a good game, right? I'm ready to congratulate him and be like, you know what? Good game, slap ass, good game. I'd prefer Quentin Johnson. I think if you're trying to be more safe, you just play QJ. I mean, you just play Swift because Swift is one of the more safe assets in fantasy football. He just basically always gets you enough points for everything to be okay. Like as long as the rest of your team shows up, if you have him, then you're pretty much in a good enough scenario to actually win. If he does, his 10 to 15 points that you've come accustomed to. I do think though that if it's my team, I'm playing Quentin Johnson just because I'm playing more the upside game, and I think Swift is more likely to swing. The pendulum swings the other way, whereas I think Quentin Johnson is going to rise like a phoenix. So I would go QJ. If you want to be safe, you play Swift. And then I'm going Drake May up against the Titans. Mike Vrabel has something to prove. That's the team that got rid of him for some reason. They decided to bring in Brian Callahan, and obviously Brian Callahan now is out of a job. So that didn't work well. That was a bad decision by the team to get rid of Vrabel. I think that was pretty stupid. And again, I think Vrabel is going to look to make a statement. I think Vrabel is going to look to put up a, belt to ass performance. And I think Drake May is going to play very good in this game. Drake May has looked incredible this season. I, for one, was a big believer in Drake May this summer, and everything I said about him has been true. And my worst fears have came alive because while I thought he was going to be good, I said as a Dolphins fan, I hope he's terrible. I hope he is just a bust. I hope he's Mac Jones. I hope it doesn't work, because if it does work and I have to deal with the Patriots being great and the Bills being great and the Dolphins being terrible, it's just going to hurt my soul. But obviously that's what's going to happen because Kraft has that fucking black magic that he utilizes, that shamanic magic. So it's crazy. It's crazy out here. But yeah, I'm going Drake May for sure. I trust him way more than I trust Bo Nix. And then I'm going Quentin Johnson. But if you want to be safe, it's DeAndre Swift. Thank you for the super chat, James. I appreciate you. Drop your question in here unless you already did, because I'm trying to find your super chat. I'm trying to find it. It was from 1204. So I'll look. Here it is. Thank you, James. I appreciate you. What's up, MG? How are you doing, man? Hope everyone's doing well, by the way. I do greatly appreciate you guys. And just so you know, you don't have to super chat to get your question answered. During this part of the stream, typically until about the last like 10 minutes, there's a lot of super chats. And then typically in the last 10 minutes, I'm able to fire off all of my a lot of the regular questions. I have gotten to a decent amount of regular questions already, but that's normally the point where a lot of the regular questions get answered. Just so you guys are aware. I am sorry that that's how the stream works, but if someone super chats, I have to answer. I can't just stiff arm them and flip them the double bird, obviously, because they paid. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the stream. So his question was Mason, Tet, or Kamara. Pick two. Kamara's the odd man out. Kamara is fine, right? Kamara is fine. He's just very boring. And what I mean by very boring is at this point in the season, I find it very hard for me to paint a very strong picture of him going bananas, right? To paint that very strong picture of him becoming this week winning asset more than maybe once or twice for the rest of the season. Again, he's kind of one of those guys like DeAndre Swift where you kind of just wave the flag and you say, you know what? He's okay enough to where if I play him, he'll get me my 10 points and maybe he gets me 16, but he gets me my 10 points. I'm fine with it. That's kind of you just kind of have to accept it, right? You have to accept it because you know that's what's going to happen. He's not going to play that well. Jordan Mason, on the other hand, might be more risky, right? There might be more risk because maybe the Eagles just blow them out. Maybe the Eagles blow them out the water. Maybe the Eagles just dominate them and it's not even close. And by the time the game ends, you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened. And Jordan Mason has 3 fantasy points. I'd rather take the risk on the guy that I could see the game ending and Jordan Mason having 20 plus fantasy points. Whereas I legitimately see such a smidgen of a chance that actually happens for Kamara. So I'm going Mason and Tet. I'm hoping Tetero is able to build on what he did last week. I'm hoping Tetero and Bryce Young's connection continues to develop because I think once they get that crystal clear elite connection together, we're going to be looking at a combination that is a lethal injection. I really think Bryce Young and Tetero are going to both be pretty good. I think Tetero is going to be very good. I think Bryce Young is going to be okay. So I feel good about Mason and Tet over Kamara. Thank you for the super chat. No problem. No problem, man. Thank you again for the super chat. Wesley, my man, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate you. Shout out to Wesley. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to everyone that super chatted. And shout out to Spock. Obviously, Spock is helping answer all of the questions in the chat. Is very helpful. If you guys are not in the Discord, I'm going to paste the link and I'm going to answer Wesley's question. Make sure you guys are in the Discord. There's a lot of us in here talking all the time, especially during the night games. I'm always in there chatting with everyone. So make sure you guys are in there. Spock sent the link. I just sent the link as well. We have 2 different links. I have no idea why Discord does that, where there's like 8 million different links you can get to join the same thing. But yeah, make sure you guys are in there. In there like swimwear. There's a lot of stuff in there. And there's just a lot of people talking to each other too. It's not all about football, We're just having some fun times in there. Even though most of the stuff in there is about football. Praying for your Dolphins, man. I'm praying too. I'm praying too that one day they finally figure it out and do something for me. But I mean, that doesn't seem possible at this point. Such a joke. And it just makes me so mad. It's like, why did young Nick pick this team? I could have just been like a Patriots fan or something. Obviously, I'm glad I'm not a Patriots fan, but or I could have been a Jets fan and like my dad, it would still be just as bad, if not worse, right? I might feel even worse at this point. Did the fucking Rams just score again? The Rams just score again? My God, the Jaguars are so bad. Sorry. Back to the point of the video. Before I get mad. Oh, wait, no, I don't think they scored. Or did they? Oh, my God. Ferguson absolutely destroyed that guy. Whoever that was, because I can't hear the game, and I have it on in like a very small portion of the screen. That guy got absolutely pants by Ferguson. All right, yeah, I hope the Dolphins figure something out too. Thank you, Wesley. Need 1 wide receiver, 2 running backs, and a flex. I'm gonna type this one out. I always type out the big questions like this because it's just easier, significantly easier for me to type it out. So that's what we gonna do. That's what we're going to do. All right. Need 1 wide receiver, 2 running backs, and 1 flex. Jefferson and Egbuka, since he might play. Tez Johnson. Running backs. Judkins, T, Dowdle, Hubbard, Vidal. Thanks. All right. I know it's going to suck if you avoid Egbuka and Egbuka plays. That's going to hurt you. That's going to hurt your soul. And you might be mad at me if that ends up happening. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think there's a very, very, very low chance that Egbuka plays. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Again, I'm not a doctor. But to me, it seems pretty unlikely. And if he does play, it seems pretty unlikely that he's going to be himself, right? That's more of it. Like, just because a guy plays doesn't mean that he's playing, right? Juwan Jennings is playing. What is he? Right? Is that Juwan Jennings? No, it's not. I get it's different scenarios, but this is not a scenario where I think, like, I would just feel so much worse. Like in your scenario, you can play Genty and Judkins and Vidal, and you feel very good with Justin Jefferson, and then you don't have to deal with fucking Egbuka. Because if you go, say Egbuka plays and he's not himself, you're very mad. If Egbuka plays or if Egbuka just doesn't play and then you have to play Tez Johnson, you're also going to feel terrible because Tez Johnson is, spoiler alert, very risky. So I would rather just avoid that situation as a whole. I get it sucks because of how good of Egbuka is, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Egbuka is like a bum or something, or Egbuka can have a good game off the injury. Of course he can. He's a freak. He's a freak of nature. But for me, I'm just going to avoid the situation as a whole. Just stiff arm it. We're going Justin Jefferson. We're going Judkins. We're going Genty. And we're going Vidal. And we're just not worried about it. It's really that easy. You just don't have to worry about it. Now, you're not going to go to sleep tonight stressing out. You're not going to be turning over a million times in your bed thinking about what could have been. You're just not going to worry about it. It's just so much easier to be in that scenario where you don't have to even think about it. And I think that's the right way to do things. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to go Genty. We're going to go Judkins. We're going to go Vidal. And we're going to go Jefferson. If you have more cojones, you're looking for a little bit more upside, maybe I go Dowdle over Vidal. But Judkins, Genty, Vidal, Jefferson. Thank you for the super chat, Taylor. I appreciate you. Love you long time. Happy PPR, Addison, Henderson, and Spears. Pick 2. Definitely going Addison. Addison has been all reliable so far this season. I'm pretty shocked at how good how good Addison looks considering the situation that we are in with Addison. Also, given the fact that he was like out partying in Ireland or London, where the hell that game was, or maybe just hunting for some tail or something, and he ends up getting like benched for the first quarter, and he still had a good game. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm definitely playing Addison. It's such a toss up between the other two. I do not really trust, if I'm being honest with you, I don't really trust Spears or Henderson. I think Spears is probably the safer bet because I think Spears should be able to get you 8 points, whereas I think Henderson might just get you 5. But if we're just I'm looking a little bit more for upside, so I would go Henderson. If you want to be safe, you go Spears, but it's Addison and Henderson for me. And I wish Henderson could get more touches so I could feel much better about him. Like, if they just fed him remotely, then we'd be talking about Travion Henderson in such a positive fashion. But instead, we're talking about him like, do you really want to play him? But I also don't really want to play Spears. And again, I think that they're going to look to pour on the points in this game. So I'm going to go Henderson. Henderson and Addison for me in half PPR. Henderson or Kamara. That's the scenario where you go Kamara because Kamara is just way safer. It's really just that simple. Kamara, the odds Kamara scores you 3 fantasy points is basically so low. The odds of that happening is so low, in my opinion. I'm riding so low, very low. Henderson shitting the bed is very possible. I would go ahead with Kamara. Again, it feels gross because Kamara just doesn't feel like he has that crazy upside. Like his upside is just so heavily capped by the fact that they want to run Kendra Miller, give him 8+ touches. The offense as a whole is just bad, right? Like Spencer Rattler's okay. Like all Spencer Rattler really does out there is he's doesn't turn the ball over, knock on wood, and he'll throw for like 200 yards and a touchdown. If maybe he took more risks, the team might be better. He doesn't really seem to be taking a lot of risks. And again, Kamara just feels okay. I'd rather play Kamara than Henderson, though. Henderson or Walker. I'm going to go Walker because I think one of these days you're going to see Kenneth Walker steamroll his way into the end zone. He's going to get a big, was that Travis Hunter touchdown? He's going to get like a big reception. Not a big reception, a big rush and find the end zone. He's looked so good. But the Seahawks are really just messing with him. Oh my gosh, Travis Hunter actually scored? I just want to watch that real quick and then we'll keep talking. But yeah, Walker is another scenario which just kind of so gross. Like if they just stopped using Charbonnet how they are, we'd be talking about Walker as a top 12 running back with how good Seattle looks. But, you know, we're living in the now. We're living in this world, and in this world, Charbonnet is too involved to truly love Walker, but I like Walker way better than Henderson. Randall, thank you for the super chat. Pick 3. Pickens, Sutton, McMillan, Diggs, or Addison. Full PPR, great question. You cannot sit Pickens. I understand CeeDee Lamb coming back definitely isn't great for George Pickens, right? Because George Pickens should see less looks and thus making him a little bit more risky. But ultimately, when you've seen a guy run as hot as George Pickens, when it's very clear that him and Dak Prescott have a good connection, when it's very clear that him and Dak Prescott have a good connection also in the red zone with the amount of touchdowns that Pickens has scored, you can't fade away from that. You can't duck your tail in between your legs and run away from that. So for me, you've got to play Pickens and you got to play Sutton. Sutton has been one of these guys this season that has been the definition of boom or bust. Sutton is either straight up dominating for you, just going bananas, or so bad that you wish you could go back in time and sit him, but you're still not sitting him because the upside is so high. And if the Eagles put up, a good game, this could be higher scoring, even though, the Broncos do have a good defense. So I feel very good about Sutton, feel very good about Pickens. And then the question is really just McMillan versus Diggs. I think Addison might be a little bit safer. And I don't know why I just talked about the Broncos versus the Eagles. That's not the matchup. That's the matchup from like 2 weeks ago. I don't know why I said that. They're playing up against the Giants. So before people are like, Nick, he's playing up against. They're not playing up against the Eagles. I know. I realized that like instantly after I started saying it. But yeah, I really like what I meant to say was I think the Giants can push the agenda up against the Broncos. So I like Sutton. I like Pickens. You can't sit out of those guys. And then I'm going to go with McMillan, and I'm just going to hope that he builds on what happened. I have Diggs ranked very high, and I think Diggs will have a bounce back showing. But last week gives me way too many reasons to worry. So to me, Sutton, McMillan, Pickens. Keep it simple. The KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Jason, thank you so much for the super chat. Start Luke McCaffrey and sit McMillan against Sauce. Returned yards count. Not sure if he ends up returning, but he is the number 1 receiver. Could drop Luke and pick up Burden. Yeah, I'm not sitting McMillan and starting Luke McCaffrey. That is one of those scenarios where, look, I'm not going to say that it's impossible for Luke McCaffrey, with the return yards to outscore McMillan. I'm not going to say that. That would be stupid. But realistically, is Luke McCaffrey really the number 1 on the team? In my opinion, yes. But when I say is he really, I mean, is he really like the locked and loaded number 1 option? It feels like kind of the guessing game you play with the LA Chargers weekly with all 3 guys healthy. But except for instead of talking about Ladd, Quentin Johnson, Keenan Allen, you're talking about Luke McCaffrey, Chris Moore, and Jalen Lane. Not the same caliber of players. Obviously a game that should be high scoring. Obviously a game where a guy like Luke McCaffrey can score a touchdown. He could score multiple touchdowns potentially. But I'm not going to guarantee that he even sees a high enough of a target share for it to be safe. I get the return yards. We did start him over Devontae Smith earlier, and I think that's a fine argument to be made. Him over Devontae Smith when you get the return yards. I'm not like some Sauce dick rider. I don't think Sauce is that good, if I'm being honest with you. If I'm keeping it 100, Sauce is getting burnt left and right. Sauce, I watch a lot of Sauce. I'm a Jets hater. He doesn't look that good. He's good, okay, but he doesn't look that good to where he can't get cooked by Tedero McMillan. So I'm gonna go ahead. God damn, what's my best DFS line right now? Okay, 98. Who's first place out? 107. Okay, so it is possible. Yeah, I would go. I'm going McMillan, man. McMillan played way too well last week for me to turn heel on him. I can't do it. I can't do it. I trust him way more. If you want to do it, look again, what I want to tell you guys also, every time I answer your question, if your gut is just like, man, I gotta play Luke McCaffrey, I gotta do it, then do it. Right? Because at the end of the day, you will feel much better with your own you'll be able to sleep much better with your own decision if you really like the guy over me telling you to switch and then you just feel like an idiot because you listen to some guy on the internet that I do appreciate your super chats and everything, but that's how it is. Let's be honest. You will feel better making your own decision at the end of the day if you feel super strongly about it. So go ahead and play Luke if you want, but I'm definitely going McMillan. Juan, thank you again for the super chat. What Commanders wide receiver should you start? It would be McCaffrey. To me, if you have to play one, it's McCaffrey. Because I think realistically, he would be the guy that I would pencil in to see the most amount of work. And I think he would be the most likely out of all of those wide receivers to score a touchdown. Do I feel infinitely better? Yeah, that is true. You can blame me. That is true, false prophet. You could then be like, Nick's the idiot, not me. So I guess that is true. You could think of it that way. But personally, I think I would sleep better, if I made my own decision. But I like making your guys' decision. So I hope it doesn't come off that way, right? I hope it doesn't come off as me being like, oh, you're an idiot if you can't make your own decisions, right? I'm happy to help you. But if you feel very strongly one way or the other, like if you're like, dude, I fucking love Luke McCaffrey this week. I think Luke McCaffrey's gonna score like 30 fantasy points. I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. And then you sit Luke McCaffrey and he scores 30 fantasy points. You're gonna feel stupid because you had that intuition, right? It's always important to go with your gut. And that's what a lot of fantasy is, right? Of course, I look at all these analytics, look at all these crazy advanced analytics, all these matchup things. And while I do a lot of research, I spend all week looking at this stuff. At the end of the day, there's luck to play a part of things. There's players get hurt in the middle of the game. I never expected Mason Taylor to score one fantasy point last week, and he did, right? So it's all about feeling the gut, figuring out your thought process through things. But at the end of the day, I'm playing Luke McCaffrey. I trust him the most. I like Luke McCaffrey, but I don't feel the kind of way where if someone else told me that they liked Jalen Lane more, I wouldn't be like, that's crazy, right? I wouldn't be like, oh, you're an idiot, right? You don't know ball. That's kind of how this scenario is. But yeah, for me, Luke McCaffrey. Yeah, exactly. If your gut, I love you too, false prophet, but your gut's telling you Luke McCaffrey is dropping 25, then play him, man. Play him. If you really feel that way, then play him. Because you will feel very bad about yourself if you sit him. So yeah, Luke McCaffrey for me would be the guy that I start. Diggs or Booty? I'm going Diggs. Look, I know Booty played so well last week. Booty. And I will give him credit for it. I will always give guys credit when they play well. I will not give them credit when they play bad. But we saw Kayshon Booty do this early on in the season, where he popped off. I forgot if it was like week 1 or 2. And everyone ran to the waiver wire. They sprinted to the waiver wire like Usain Bolt. And they were like, I'm picking this guy up and I'm going to start him. And then we saw what happened, right? I feel like this is kind of another one of those scenarios. We've known players like this before where they play very well. You fall into the trap, Ramondre Stevenson, and you play them. And then they are just terrible on the next Sunday. That kind of feels like this scenario where Diggs bounces back to the median. He gets you at least 10 points, right? Booty might score you 3. And I like the upside of Diggs more, so I'm going Diggs. Cage, thank you so much for the super chat. Cage Brown. Full PPR, pick one. Booty, Shaheed, Egbuka, Tez Johnson. Okay. You're in the scenario where I think I'm willing to roll the dice. You are in the scenario where I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit that Egbuka plays. Again, do I think that Egbuka plays? No. I do not. But I've also said that I think a guy's going to be in and then they miss, and I don't think a guy's going to play and then they do play. There's no science to it. Even the guys that are on Twitter that are doctors, right? I'm not a doctor. They'll be like, oh, this guy's going to be out fucking 3 to 5 weeks and the guy's back 2 weeks later, right? Or just isn't out at all, or they're out for the season, right? There's no way to truly know unless you're in the actual locker room how they genuinely feel. So for me, it would be Egbuka, and then if Egbuka doesn't play, you just play Tez Johnson. If you want your 8 points, right? If you're thinking I need 8 points, then you just play Shaheed because that's what'll get you. But I'm willing to roll the dice on. So you play Egbuka, and then if he doesn't play, you go Tez Johnson. Rise above everything. Dobbins or Swift? Great question. Flex Bourne or Luke McCaffrey? Definitely playing Bourne. Definitely playing Bourne. I love Bourne this week. I think even with Kittle back, you're still going to get a really high dosage of Bourne in this offense. I think Bourne is the number one wide receiver on this team until Ricky Pearsall comes back. I think when you see Ricky come back, Ricky regains the throne as the number one wide receiver on this team. I love Ricky Pearsall, but Juwan Jennings is so banged up that it is really hard to see him get 6+ targets here. So I think in terms of the target hierarchy, you're either going to get Kittle, number 1, or Kendrick Bourne. So I think they'll both be close. So I go Bourne definitely over Luke. And then Dobbins or Swift. Dobbins, disaster class in London. Swift, beautiful. Magnifique. Sexy, beautiful game. Naughty boy he was, but I'm going Dobbins. I think Dobbins bounces back. And I trust Bourne way more than Luke McCaffrey. That's how I'm feeling. Thank you again, Raz. I appreciate you. I love you. Love you a long time. Love all you guys. I do appreciate all you guys, whether you can super chat or not, whether you just started watching today or you've been watching for years. It means the world to me that people watch this stuff. We have 100 people watching on X, 85 on YouTube, so make sure you guys do hit that like button. I don't think you can like it on X. Maybe you can. But make sure you guys do leave a like on the stream. It does really help me out a ton. I appreciate you. Bannon, Mason Taylor, Luke McCaffrey, Shaheed, Hubbard. 1 tight end, 1 flex. Now, if there was no weather concerns in the Browns-Dolphins game, it is so easily Fannin. It is so obviously Fannin. But there are those concerns, right? There is that worry deep down in my mind that the weather, the rain, and the wind really mess this game up, and you just get nothing, right? You ever seen that meme where it's like, and I got you something to eat, and it's like absolutely nothing, and there's nothing underneath the thing? That's the scenario we might be in here with Fannin, right? Where we talk ourselves heavily into him, and then Fannin doesn't end up doing much. So that's really concerning. I would just go Mason Taylor, and I would take the shot on Luke McCaffrey for the upside. So Mason Taylor and Luke McCaffrey. We buy homes. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Love you a long time. Make sure you leave your question in the chat and I will answer it. Right now, based on the pictures that I've seen, it actually doesn't look that bad, but it's reported to get bad at game time. That's what the report is, so that concerns me. And we buy homes. Make sure you leave your questions in the chat. What's up, NF? What's going on, man? I appreciate you. Love you a long time. Fannin or Kelsey today? Does the weather in Fannin's game concern you? It does. Now, if you just go ahead and look at the game, thank you, Hanover. If you just go and look at the weather right now, like if they show, I don't know what you guys are watching. I assume you're watching the game that time right now in London. But whenever this game ends, there'll be like a pregame show and they'll show like all the stadiums. From the video I saw just before, the weather didn't look that crazy, but it's projected to get crazy by the time we kick off. And I think probably 5 minutes from now, there'll probably be like some video on Twitter where it's fucking, you ever seen Family Guy? And they're like, it's raining sideways. That's the kind of weather I expect because of the wind that is projected. Now, I have always been someone that has told you guys, don't worry about the weather. Don't overthink the weather. Don't overthink it, because a lot of the scenarios we overthink the weather so heavily and it doesn't impact things. But when they're talking about 35 plus mile an hour gusts of wind, like, how the hell do you throw the ball if there's just randomly a 35 mile an hour gust of wind? Oh my God, Adams has 3 touchdowns. Why have one when you can have Trace? It does concern me. And while I do think, like, if this game, again, if you could just take the weather out of it, I could see a strong argument to be made for you to play Fannin over Kelsey, especially with of the return of Rashi Rice. But let's be honest with you, you have Kelsey. Why bother risking it, right? Especially because we saw Fannin eat. I get there's no Njoku. He really ate because the team threw the ball 50 times. Do we think they're going to throw the ball 50 times again? In my opinion, no, I do not. So I would prefer to avoid that scenario and just play Kelsey. It just feels way safer. It feels way, 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 way safer. That's what I would do. And we buy homes. Please let me know your question in chat. I'm going to try to scroll up to when your message was, just to make sure that I didn't miss it. Making sure I didn't miss it. Unless you just sent $1 to be a nice person, which I appreciate, but hopefully you get your question in. Adams is such a fucking beast, by the way, guys. Beast. Beast mode. How many teams do I have him on? I'm just gonna check real quick. Corey, thank you for the super chat. You got Scat, Genty, Brees Hall, and A-Chain. Oh my gosh. What a great fucking problem to have, right? What a great issue to have. Oh, my team is too good. Basically. My team is too great. Oh, do I only have Adams on one team? That actually hurts my soul. I love Devontae Adams. I forget who's on each team that I have. I have too many teams. Do I have them in Yahoo or just in Sleeper? No, it's just Sleeper. You know what? I had a big game out of him, though, so I appreciate him. Shout out to Devontae Adams dropping a 27 bomb straight down the throat of my opponent. All right. Just make sure I didn't miss anything on Patreon, too. Okay. You have Scat, Genty, Brees Hall, H-An. Who is your running back? 1, 2, and flex. I mean, again, this is a great problem to have. It is, but it's going to be very annoying for you. Because if you get this wrong, this could potentially be what changes your W to an L because of how good the players are here. So for me, I would play. I mean, I don't think you can sit A-Chain, especially if it's going to rain like we expect. You're going to see a lot of running, so you got to play A-Chain. I don't think you can sit him. I'm not sitting Scataboo after how good Scataboo looked. And I'm not sitting Genty. So I think Brees Hall has to be the odd man out. And that's sad because I have A-Chain 5, Genty 11, Scataboo 12, Brees 15. I think I'm a little bit lower on Brees than consensus. Just because of the offensive unit as a whole without Garrett Wilson, I don't know if they're going to be able to score as many, I don't know if they'll be able to be as effective moving the ball down the field to get Brees Hall into scenarios to score. Do I think Brees Hall is a bad start by any means? No. I think if the average Joe is probably starting Brees Hall and feeling good about it, right? But when you have to nitpick when it's between 4 guys that I really like, my nitpick will be that the Jets are the Jets, and ultimately, even with Scataboo going up against the Broncos, I trust that more than I trust a game up against the Panthers, which on paper is a good matchup just because of Fields and how they look. So I'm going to sit Brees Hall, sadly. It's going to be A-Chain, Genty, and Scataboo. That's how we're rocking. That is how we are rocking. All right. We buy homes. Thank you again for the super chat. I have Trey McBride with Green Bay Packers defense. Do I keep Green Bay roster to pick up the Browns, Bears, or Panthers? I personally don't try to galaxy brain my team that way of like, oh, I have a guy going up against my defense. I can't play that defense. I like the Packers a lot this week. They're my 6th ranked defense. The Bears are my third ranked defense. So if you're someone that is willing to switch defenses every week, which is my strategy, it's been my strategy for years, then pick up the Bears and you'll feel good about it because I really like the matchup. So I will say if you're someone that, maybe you're in a league where you can't make a million pickups, or maybe you're in a scenario where you just like to hold one defense, that's the scenario I hold the Packers. But yeah, if it's my team, I'm switching to the Bears. I just like the Bears better. So go with the Bears in my opinion. And then again, for you, Corey, it's going to be Genty, Scatterboo, and A-Chain, and Brees Hall is going to stay on the pine. Do I goon? I'm doing it right now. When I'm rich, I'm going to send you money. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Love you a long time. That's a funny comment. I'm not going to lie. I appreciate you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Got to put all my DFS lineups in. Start AJ Brown or DeAndre Swift. I would play DeAndre Swift. I would play DeAndre Swift. Do I start the Broncos or the Chiefs? I would go Broncos or Chiefs. I'd go Broncos. I would go with the Broncos. All right, let me just answer this Patreon question real quick. Start two of my flex: Kendrick Bourne, T-Mac, Golden, Mason. T-Mac, and Bourne. All right. Next question here. Vidal or Rico? I would go Vidal. Should I start Chris Moore or Romeo Dobbs? I would still go Dobbs. Who do I drop for Coker? Burden, Marks. I already have McMillan. I would drop Burden. Pollard or Jacobs? Yeah, who's being mean to Spock, bro? No need to insult Spock. He's being nice. He doesn't have to answer anyone's questions. Just say no. He does it out of the grace of himself. He doesn't have to sit here. Okay. I appreciate him, but he doesn't have to do this, so don't get mad at him. Pollard or Jacobs? Jacobs. I still think Jacobs will play. And then you could just pick up somewhat. You could just pick up his backup. Rico Dowdle or Quentin Johnston? I would go Quentin Johnston. Dobbins, Luke McCaffrey, or Booty? I'm going Dobbins. Hey, Nick, can you help me pick my two running backs in one flex? Genty, Brees, Bill, Judkins, Monte Igbuka. Thanks. Tet. Yeah. You're going to play Genty and Judkins and Tet. Any concern about Judkins with the weather? No, I actually like Judkins way better because of the weather. Because now they don't have to play that. Oh man, we have like one of the better running backs in the NFL, but instead we're just gonna throw the ball a million times. They're not gonna have to play that game if it's raining. They're just gonna spam run the ball, and it actually sucks as a Dolphins fan that this is what this game is going to become. Because I think if the Dolphins could pass a lot, like if the weather just isn't much of a factor and the Dolphins are able to throw a ton, I think the Dolphins could easily beat the Browns. But in a game where it's like this rushing affair with how untrustworthy Mike McDaniel is, like Mike McDaniel will try to fucking throw piss missiles in the rain because he's stupid. So that is a big concern for me in this game. And it's very positive. If you're a Judkins owner, you should be jumping for joy if the weather ends up playing out the way that it is, right? Expected to play out. Chat, let me know. Who do you start? Tet, JMO, Worthy, or Kamara full PPR? I would go Tet, personally. Adams has 26.50 in the Garage Beer League. That's good. That's good. I don't remember how many I said that he had me in my league. The league that I'm in on Sleeper is much different scoring compared to normal because there's all those boosts. It's like basically anyone that plays on like DraftKings, you would know how there's like all those boosts for like, 30-yard reception, 40-yard reception, all those crazy boosts. It's a league like that. MHJ, Keenan Allen, T-Mac, or Swift for the flex. I'm going T-Mac. I'm no professor of logic. Dude, I do not own a doghouse. I have cats. Swift or Young? In Superflex, for me, unless you're talking about like a bottom of the barrel quarterback, which I wouldn't consider Bryce Young to be, I'm always going to be playing the quarterback. I'm always going to play the quarterback. I know that that might not sound the best, be like the best strategy always, but like Swift, especially Swift, who's just coming off an absolute heater. Like the odds the iron strikes twice in a row seems super low to me. Like the odds of him going crazy again. So I'm probably gonna play Young. Chicago or Indy, I'd go Chicago. Full PPR pick 1, Hubbard or Bourne. Lad, Sutton, Egbuka, or Dowdle start 2. I'm just not gonna play the Egbuka guessing game in your scenario. And we are just gonna go ahead and play Sutton and Lad. I have Hall, A Chain, and Scat starting. Do I sit any of them and put Coker first? No. No, you don't. You're good. Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Xavier Worthy. Sit 1. I would sit. I mean, I would sit Mike Evans, but you also can't sit Mike Evans, so you're going to sit Keenan Allen. Knicks or Goff? I would go Knicks. Goff, to me, is one of those guys that's like the quintessential really good in real life quarterback, in my opinion, but not very good in fantasy. Why is that? Because we could easily see this matchup, the Lions and the Bucks, be a shootout, right? Be the highest scoring game of the week. And still, we don't end up seeing one of those guys clearly make a leap over one of the other, right? Where one of those guys is clearly better than the other. So for me, it would be what the fuck? I don't even think that makes sense. What I mean is when you can run the ball as much as they can, even if they're able to put up a big point total, it's not necessarily always going to be because Goff has that big game, right? There's a lot of quarterbacks in this league where, hey, like the Cowboys, for instance, if the Cowboys put up a huge total, Dak probably has a really good game, right? Whereas for the Lions, they don't necessarily need Jared Goff to go balls to the wall to have that big game. So I would go Knicks. Waller, Fannin, or Ertz? I would go Waller, but if you want to be safe, you just play Ertz. I asked the wrong question before. Should I start Stroud or Brissett this week? Fields also available, but I can't afford to be too risky today with my matchup. Okay, then just play Stroud. T-Law threw me. Can you put an out player on IR? It depends strictly on your league settings. I wish there was like a universal answer to this. Every website is different. Every league is different. On Sleeper, you can adjust the IR spot to be for like 8,000 different things. There's like COVID IR on there. Like if your guy's sick, you can throw him on like a specific IR. It's different in every league. Do I start Broncos or Chiefs? Broncos, Tet Worthy or Keenan Allen? Tet Worthy or Keenan Allen? Tet Worthy or Keenan Allen? I would go Tet. Yeah, I think BTJ is just so banged up. Didn't T-Law get sacked like 6 times? I'm not fully watching the game because I'm streaming, but it wouldn't shock me. I need to win this week. Should I go Kraft or Mason Taylor? Looking for upside, Kraft. All right, we're so far behind in the questions. I'm just going to keep zooming around. Pollard or Spears? Pollard, Stephon Diggs, Luke McCaffrey, Stephon Diggs. Bill or Rico? I'm going to go with Bill. Genti or Rico? Genti, Worthy, Addison, or Kamara? I would go Worthy. Jefferson, Pickens, Lad, Adunze, Jefferson, and Pickens. Lad or Bill? I would go with Bill. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill. I'm very, very, very excited to see what Bill does today. I think Bill's going to have a good game. Hopefully. And not completely screw the pooch like last week. I mean, last week, I thought he was going to go nuclear, especially in a Rainier game like that. But there was the fumbling issues. But the team really has committed fully to Bill being the guy. So I think you see a lot of Bill in this game. Bill Nye, the Science Guy. Jake Ferguson or Rico Dowdle? I would probably play Jake Ferguson just because he's a little bit safer. Again, the guys are going to be rotating drives, which basically means like drive 1 will be Rico or Chuba. Then the next drive will be the other guy. And then what probably happens is after a few drives of doing that, they realize one of the guys is better and rock more with that guy. If I had to guess, that would be what they're doing. That would be my best guess of what they're attempting to do. Is find who the hot hand is and rock with him. Need to win this week. Do I go Goff or Herbert and Allen or Evans? I would go Evans and I would go Herbert. Jason Guerrero, but since you have Herbert, I think I would go Herbert and Allen. MHJ, AJ Brown, Tedero McMillan, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen start 2. Great question. It's so hard. AJ Brown is one of the most annoying players to have on your team this year. And it is one of the biggest reasons as to why I said to fade him, because If AJ Brown scores 30 points today, would I be surprised? No. If he scores 3 fantasy points, would I be surprised today? No. He is so up and down. It's a run heavy offense, but I think they're going to come out here again looking for a staple victory. You've fallen 2 in a row. You're going to try to do something different. And I think you could see A.J. Brown get a zillion targets, but I still don't trust him. And I don't think anyone should trust him at this point in the season. So for me, I'm playing T Mac. He's looking really good. And then I would play Marvin Harrison Jr. Because again, I think AJ Brown's going to have a good game, but that is the worst matchup for a wide receiver. The worst matchup you could have is up against the Vikings. The Vikings are the best team against wide receivers in fantasy football on a per game basis this season. So MHJ and Tedrow McMillan. Do you think Rodgers and Flacco's value rise after Thursday Night Football? I have Daniels and Jackson, but think about picking up Flacco for the schedule. I think the odds of what we saw on Thursday Night Football occurring again is very minimal. We saw this with Rodgers in week 1, where he goes up against the Jets, and with all of the hate in his heart for the Jets organization, a team that did him dirty, he goes out there and goes nuclear, right? And then he pretty much cools off. He's not playing as well. And then last week he pops up again, right? So obviously a guy like Flacco could pop off again and have a big game, right? Because of all the weapons that he has, the offensive line sucks, but he seems to be able to get it to work. So yeah, I'm fine picking him up. But are you ever really going to start Joe Flacco over Lamar Jackson? The answer to that is no. I don't know anyone that has the balls to bench Lamar Jackson for fucking old man Joe Flacco. So while I think, sure, if you're in like a deeper league, I get it. But in your scenario, we already have Daniel Jones and you already have Action Jackson. There's no reason, in my opinion, to even pick him up. Oscar the Grouch, my man, thank you so much. Say hi to Elmo for me. TJ Hawkinson, Waller, or Otten. It's sad to say, but Hawkinson is not even remotely on my radar as like a guy you actually want to start. I get if you're in a pickle and you have to start him. There's a big difference between having to start someone and actually wanting to start someone. Hawkinson's in like the you have to start him range because something went wrong, right? The offense of the Vikings, I thought would look to involve Hawkinson a ton without JJ McCarthy and with JJ McCarthy, and they just haven't. It's been the Addison, the Justin Jefferson show. And with Addison playing as well as he has, I don't really see a strong role for TJ Hawkinson in this offense. So with that said, I think the smart move would be to play either Waller or Otten with the chances that Evans more than likely is in and Egbuka could play. I think I'm just going to risk it in the weather. I get it's a risk, but if both those guys play, Cade Otton is live to be a stone cold 0, a like 2 to 3 fantasy point performer that will really fuck you over. And even with the weather, I think you could see a bunch of Waller over the middle. So my lean would be Waller. In my opinion, I'm going Waller. Pick 2, Kamara, Vidal, or Uncle Rico. Or Uncle Rico. Uncle Rico. What was that report that just came up? Chuba Hubbard lined up first with the Panthers starters during warmups. Does that mean you need to full on panic if you have Rico? No. But that's, again, the warmups don't really mean too much in my opinion. Like, I'm not sitting here. All right, let me just check something real quick. And I'm not sitting here and saying like you have to sit fucking Rico now. I'm not doing that. I'm still playing him, but that is like another reason to be, slightly more concerned. All right, that's what I would do. That is what I would do. That's what I like. I entered $60 in DFS contests for the first game, right? The game that just occurred. And I won $60.57. I made 57 cents after all that. For me, Kamara, Vidal, or Rico, I'm going to sit Kamara and run Rico and Vidal. If you're thinking strictly about safety, right, and you're just wanting to be as safe as possible, go ahead and sit Rico because Rico now is a lot more risky, just inherently with Chuba back and with the potential, Chuba lined up as the number one option. Remember we got the fucking tweet that Hassan Hashkins was going to be the starter, and we've gotten the tweets that, like they said Bam Knight's going to be the starter. And if you watch the game, guys, Bam Knight was not the starter. Just a spoiler alert, he was not the starter. He became the starting lead back after Amari DiMarcado got hurt halfway into the game. So to me, it's got to be Rico and Vidal. One Dose Creator, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you. I'm really scared to play, and I'm going to get One Dose Creator too once he puts his question in the chat. I'm really scared to play Darren Waller over Sterling Shepard. Then don't. Then don't, right? No one's forcing you to, right? You can play whoever the fuck you want, but if Egbuka plays and Evans plays, you're basically completely fucked if you play Shepard. Now, it's not guaranteed that happens, but you would be screwed if that happened. One Dose Creator, put your question in chat, please. I want to get you. I want to get you one way or another. Pats, Bears, or Seahawks defense? I go with the Bears. Keenan, J-Mo, or Devontae Smith? I would go Keenan. Monty or Olave? Sit Waddle. Look, for a lot of you guys, I'm not sitting Waddle. I'm just going to chance it. Look, if you have Waddle and some other guys that are just better options in general, yeah, you want to sit Waddle. But if you're talking about like, oh, Nick, I'm going to sit Waddle and I'm going to instead play Tez Johnson, then I'm like, you are just playing this way too risky, in my opinion. Like, I'd rather play Waddle in that scenario. You know what I'm saying? Bam or Golden in the flex? I would go Bam personally. Should I play Bam Knight or try to go with a different running back? I think Bam Knight's fine. Like, Bam Knight to me kind of feels like one of those boring plays, right? Where it's like, he's going to get you 10 to 12 points. It is what it is, right? It's not the sexy play where you play a guy that could score 25 plus points. Like, I just don't see that in the range of outcomes in this game. Do I think it's possible? Yes. But is it the most likely outcome? Far from it, right? You ever seen like the Avengers, that guy that can forget what his name is, I don't watch those movies, like where the guy can see all the different futures, you know what I'm saying? Like all the different realities. Like, I don't think that's the most likely reality that we live in, And One Dose Creator, please leave your question in chat, please. Stans Krilla, thank you for the super chat. Olave or Kittle in the flex, have Goddard in tight end. Oh man, that's tough because I don't think I want to advise anyone to sit Kittle, but you already have Goddard, so I understand playing Goddard over Kittle. I think the way I would look at this is a safety question. Do you want to get your guaranteed 10 points out of Olave, 10 to 15 points out of Olave? You do it. If you want more upside, you play Kittle. I would probably just play Olave. I feel so much better about him. And One Dose Creator, please leave your question in chat unless you're just being nice, super chatting. I'm going to try to pull up the chat in a different screen and see if I can get it. See if I can scroll back far enough and get it. One Dose. Yeah, I only have the one message from Mr. One Dose Creator. Quality may vary. Viewers in this chat are seeking advice on fantasy football lineups. That's funny that they say that. Fannin or Taylor? Fannin or Taylor? Taylor. All right, let me just put in my DFS lineup real quick. And then I'm going to answer your guys' questions. AJ Brown. What's up? Taylor. Kamara or Rashi? Projections in fantasy football mean virtually nothing on the websites, in my opinion. I know that seeing your projection drop hurts your feelings, and it hurts my feelings too, right? I don't love seeing that, but I think looking at the projections and then weighing your fucking life choices on the projections is kind of crazy to do. I mean, I get why you asked the question. I get why people look at them, but I'm not worried about it. Luke McCaffrey or Rico Dowdle? I'm going to go Rico Dowdle. I view both of those guys as risks. So I'm going to take the more safe version of the risk when they both have pretty big upside. So I would go with Rico because, again, I think Rico Dowdle, you're guaranteed to get a lot of, at least you're going to be getting 10 touches, right? Whereas with Luke McCaffrey, he might be getting 2 targets and might also just not record a single catch. right? Is that the most likely scenario? No. Am I going to lie to you and be like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen? No. But I think at the end of the day, the smart move would be just to play Rico down. I think if we're talking about guys with similar upsides, I'm just taking the safer bet of the two. Especially like most leagues, you're not getting return yards too. And that's like one of the bigger edges for McCaffrey is if you had the return yards. So we're going to go ahead and play Rico. You might just get hit with the Rico. Golden, Spears, or Tucker. I would play Golden, Spears, or Tucker. Fuck, who's Robinson? I would go Golden. Rate my starting team. Let's see. I think that's pretty good, Tyron. I think that's pretty good. Give you a nice 8.5 out of 10. Do you think McCaffrey could have a big game? Yes, I do. Should I trade ETN and Benson for Swift and Keenan Allen? Yeah. I would prefer Swift and Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, JMO, or Devontae Smith. I would go Keenan. And if you project that you are going to lose, if you're just like looking at your matchup and you're like, yeah, I think I might lose, I might just play JMO just because I could see JMO going fucking nuclear against the Buccaneers. I don't think that's the most likely scenario because obviously he's been super boomer bust, but the upside's there. Vidal over Devontae, I agree. Flex one dose creator. Thank you for the super chat. Butte, Jennings, start Bourne or Walker. I'm going Bourne, and I am going with Pitts. I know Juwan Jennings on paper should be the start, and like realistically, Juwan Jennings has a good argument to be started because of his matchup, but at the end of the day, he looked so bad last week. He wasn't really getting any targets. He's so hurt that to me, the odds of him actually coming to fruition and having that big game seems pretty low. So I would go Pitts and I would go Bourne. Thank you again for the super chat. I really appreciate you. And you could have just left it in a regular chat message unless for some reason I scrolled past it. I think you could have. And thank you again for the super chat. I appreciate it. Okay. Would you make any changes to the starting team based on my bench? No. Should I trade Jefferson for Judkins and McMillan? I would. Yeah, I agree. I would. Brees, Kamara, Vidal. I'd go Brees. Dowdle, Worthy, DJ Moore, Kendrick Bourne. I would go Bourne and Dowdle. Nope, I would go Worthy and Dowdle. What happened to the Jags? I had the Trevor BTJ stack. BTJ let me down. See, again, I don't necessarily know because I'm watching. I mean, I'm streaming, so I wasn't necessarily that focused on the game. Olave, AJ Brown, or Diggs? Diggs for me. Fuck the Finns, nah. Fuck the Patriots, bro. Should I play Pickens and Luke McCaffrey? Pickens and Kamara. Yeah, make sure you guys do smash that like button. Facts. And yeah, do check out Underdog if you guys are not on there already. If you use code Notorious, you get $5. If you play $5, you get $100 in the pick'em in bonus funds or in bonus entries. So make sure you guys do check that out if you're not on there. Love you long time. What happened? T-Law fucking sucks. Yeah, I mean that is probably what happened. I just didn't watch, so I didn't want to say for sure. Tet, Diggs, or Allen pick 2. I would go Tet, and I would go Diggs. I mean Tet and Allen. Since Deebo is out, well, you would have wanted to have Adams in there, so it would have been Adams, Johnston, Addison, and then tight end of flex would have been Kittle, and then at flex you want Krosky. Mason Taylor or Waller? Mason Taylor for me. All right, the games have locked. We are at lock. Hope you guys did enjoy today's stream. I really appreciate you guys for watching. It means the world to me. Thank you to Spock for answering all the questions. Make sure you guys are in the Discord, by the way. If you're not in the Discord, then you're missing out on a fun time that we have every single Sunday. We have a group fun time together. It's always a great time, so I do appreciate you guys. I did stick with Bryce Young in my lineup over Mac Jones. Unless let me change that. Nope, it can't because he already started. So that sucks. But that's fine because I think Bryce Young will have a good game. Pray for you. I will pay for you. Off like a prom dress. Later. See you later. I'm starting Scatterboo no matter the matchup. I agree with you. Thanks, Nick. You rock too, man. Love you long time. Love all you guys. I will pray for you. Have a good one. Thank you again to Spock. Thank you to all the mods in the chat. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys very, very shortly. Love you, Hanover. Have a good one. Have a good one, everybody. I'll play some music on the way out here if I can get to it. We'll do some music. See you, everybody. Good boy. See you, Caitlin. Make sure you guys are all in the Discord. Peace out. Adios, amigos. CAC. Good boy. Good boy.